The night I told a billionaire to sit down, our whole rooftop went quiet. Crystal chimed like nerves. The private elevator dinged and Graham Whitaker, yes, that Whitaker, stepped out and started to fold right in front of me, hand to chest, color draining like someone pulled the plug on his face and every manager froze because power makes people hesitate. You know what I mean? So I set my plates down, walked into his path and said, "Sir, sit down, not loud." Just certain loosened his tie, counted breaths with him. In through the nose, out through the mouth, kept my hand on his shoulder so he knew he wasn't falling alone. The paramedics swarmed. He grabbed my wrist and rasped, "Stay." So I stayed until the gurney rolled away, and he asked my name. "Maya Carter, sir. Thank you, Maya." Then the elevator closed and the room exhaled all at once while my hands finally remembered how to shake. And I went back to pouring water, like nothing happened, because rent still wanted what it wanted, and my daughter Lila still needed $10 for a field trip by Friday. At home, the apartment smelled like crayons and lemon dish soap, kid art clipped to a string across the yellow wall. $23 in checking a notice that said the rent would jump by $300 next month, the calculator on my phone blinking, like it could save me. And at 5 a.m., I braided Lila's hair while she told me the difference between meteors and meteorites. She asked if she could bring her planet book to school. I said yes, and on the bus. I finally looked at my phone. There was already a video of me telling a billionaire to sit. Hero in the caption comments from strangers who didn't know us. And I wanted to disappear into my coat. Because I didn't want a headline, I wanted a little room to breathe. 2 days later, Gerald the host gave me that lawyerly look and said, "Table 18 asked for you by name." And there Graham was back in a navy suit with color in his cheeks, softer in the eyes than the magazine covers. He stood when I reached him, thanked me without the performance, asked if I'd sit for 2 minutes. Not standard, I know. And for those 2 minutes, he was just a man who'd gotten scared in public, a widower who didn't know what to do with the quiet at home, I told him. I'm a single mom with a second-hand red dress and good shoes that still make my feet ache. After doubles, we didn't trade tragedies. We traded truth, and before he left, he slid a small card with neat handwriting and said, "If you'd ever accept coffee off the clock somewhere not made of marble, I'd like to thank you properly. Bring Lila if you want. I like people who like volcanoes, so." Saturday we met at a corner cafe with wobbly chairs and plants rooting in jelly jars. He arrived in rolled sleeves with a paper bag crouched to Lila's height. "You must be Lila, your mom saved me," and handed her a kid's microscope with slides and an onion skin diagram. She looked at me for permission, then bear hugged his shin, yeah. That happened, and over coffee we said the quiet things out loud. He told me about Anna, the wife he loved, and lost how grief starts like a boulder and shrinks to a stone you keep in your pocket. I told him my story the unglossed way. I had Lila young, did 2 parents' worth of hours, learned to fix a tire and a bedtime in the same day. He offered help, and I braced for strings. He said there weren't any, that he has more money than time and can't buy time for himself, but maybe he can buy me a little. I said I'd only ever take help if I can pay it forward later, that I don't want to owe a person, but I do want to owe the world better. And he nodded, like that was exactly the answer he'd hoped for. We didn't tumble into a movie montage. We built something small and consistent, 2-sentence texts on double shift days. Drink water. I'm proud of you, a rule that Lila is the lead and not a prop, no overnight. Anything home by 8 on school nights. He learned our bus route before he ever offered a ride. He listened when she explained why Saturn's rings are icy and never once looked at his phone. And slowly, the man separated from the empire. He started talking about stepping back from 3 boards, focusing on the foundation. His late wife dreamed up, asked me to sit in on a scholarship meeting for single parents. He took notes when I spoke, not because of optics, because he meant it. Right when the air finally felt easy, Old Trouble walked through the front door. In a wrinkled shirt and a practiced grin, Travis Reed, Lila's father in biology only, leaning on the host stand like it was his living room. I haven't seen him in 6 years. And there he was telling me I looked good, saying he wanted to be in his daughter's life now that he'd seen a photo of me with a man who owns an elevator, then dropping the price of his sudden paternal instinct, 40,000. And he'd sign away rights, or he'd file for custody and make it messy. He gave me 1 week, smiled, like he'd already spent the money, and the word messy landed like a bruise waking up. I worked the rest of my shift on muscle memory. Got home and checked the locks twice, told myself, no. Judge would entertain this fear, said. It didn't care, Graham called and heard it in my. Hello, he said. That's extortion. I'm calling Elena Park in the morning. She's surgical. And the next day, I sat in a glass office while Elena built a wall out of paper. Cease and desist restraining order documentation. 2 steps ahead of every nightmare I'd rehearsed at 2 a.m. Mid-signature. Graham's phone buzzed. He stepped out. Came back set like a doorframe. Security just flagged someone at Redwood Elementary, trying to check out a student. He's not authorized to pick up principals, holding him in the office. We drove like fear had a speed limit, and in that office the principal stood with her hands clasped and her face already at, "Don't test me." Travis tried a speech about surprise appointments and how kids need both parents. The officer looked unimpressed. Elena's paralegal had already emailed half the file, the principal said. "You're on permanent, do not release." The officer walked him out, and I got to say the sentence I've been waiting 6 years to say without a tremor. Biology isn't fatherhood. Showing up is. Love is. Consistency is. Later, Elena texted, filing confirmed, and I finally exhaled air I'd been holding since I was 21, in a thrift store dress, rocking a colicky baby. Yeah, that's the twist. The part where you realize some people only show up to cash out, not to care. After that, the city felt warmer, not fixed, just kinder. We built small rituals that turned into a life. Sunday pancakes with too much vanilla. Weeknight walks past the used bookstore, where the owner tapes poems to the window. He told me a thing I didn't know I needed. You don't have to be grateful every second to be deserving. You can ask for what you need and keep your spine winter-cracked the sidewalks. And one night over Basil and Old Wood, he said he was falling in love, not a plea, just a fact. I didn't answer right away because love is a vow, and I owe my vows to Lila first. But the truth is, I was already there. We made a deal, slow, honest kid first. And when spring showed up, stubborn and bright, he took us to the conservatory on the hill with the glass roof. There were sandwiches in a basket and butterflies like confetti. He turned to me and to her at the same time and asked for a future that looked like showing up. Lila took it seriously, like she does everything. Will you help me build volcanoes, even if they explode on the rug? Every single time. Will you stay when we get loud? I promise. She nodded. I said yes because I'd watched him choose us every day without a camera on him, because he never treated kindness like currency, because I finally slept deep when I heard him lock the door without making a show of being a savior. 2 days later, a blog that loves scandal more than truth called me a Cinderella, with an angle DMs filled with strangers calling me names that aren't worth repeating. Some of his peers told him to be careful. Some of my coworkers stopped looking me in the eye. We had a choice. Live to calm down strangers, or live to keep faith with the people at our table. So I told him I wanted a prenup to keep my apartment for a year. Even if we mostly stayed at his place, my name staying my name because I earned it. Partner on any business paperwork, not beneficiary. He said yes to every boundary, with relief, not resentment. People think wealth is power, he said. Real power is knowing who you are, when the applause gets stripped away And I told him husband privileges require showing up to parent-teacher conferences without calling them inefficient deal. He laughed and teared up at the same time. So here we are. Not a fairy tale, a life. Travis pled to charges and faded into the background noise where he belonged. Lila's science fair ribbon hangs crooked on our fridge next to a photo of 3 people on a picnic blanket, one of them missing a front tooth. The restaurant floor still squeaks in the same spot that gives me away during service, and every now and then someone on the bus asks if I really told a billionaire to sit down, like I was scolding a toddler. I tell them the truth. I told a person to sit because he needed help, and everyone else was waiting for permission. That moment changed a lot, not because of his money, but because I remembered who I am under other people's expectations. The woman who counts breaths, the mother who builds volcanoes on a sheet pan, the person who will choose kindness with a spine even when the room is made of glass. Now it's your turn. Would you have taken the help or turned it down? On principle, is a power gap always a deal breaker? Or can boundaries and transparency make it fair? Where's the line between pride and prudence, independence and partnership? Tell me in the comments what you would have done in my shoes: push back, defend, confess. And if you want to see what happens at the garden wedding, and whether we keep that tiny apartment for the full year or cave at month 9 when the elevator wins, hit subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll bring the tea, you bring the truth.